Today I'll be doing a simple, yet not so simple restoration of a classic Redline. Don't go away. Hey everybody, this is Paul from Fat Guy Productions, coming to you as always from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. And yes, indeed, today we're going to be tackling an iconic Hot Wheel, one of the Sweet 16, the Silhouette. Now, this is one of those cars that, in my opinion, never seems to get an awful lot of love, and it sure does seem to get shied away from in the restoration community, and that could have something to do with the painted base. Be that as it may, I'm not one to run from a challenge, and so we're going to take this car on, as bad as it is, and we're going to see what we can do with it. So let's get right to it. The lowly Silhouette, one of the original Sweet 16 models produced in 1968, is one of the most recognized, but in my humble opinion, one of the most unappreciated Hot Wheels of all time. The Silhouette was designed by Harry Bradley, and it was based on a show car built by Bill Cushenberry in 1962. The Silhouette was produced at both the US and Hong Kong plants, and there are several differences between the castings. The Hong Kong engine has a supercharger, while the US engine has dual carbs. Hong Kong cars have a black steering wheel inserted into the dash, while the US cars have a steering wheel that was molded as part of the interior. All Silhouettes have a painted base. This little Silhouette is in pretty sad shape. Clearly it was loved and played with hard. It has big time paint loss and a lot of corrosion. This is going to make it a real challenge for me to get it to look good in Spectra Flame paint, especially as I want to paint it in one of the lighter colors, green apple. I'll begin as usual by taking the car apart. My shielded drilling works best on these old Redlines. One trick for using the Vix Bits is to start with little or no pressure and slow speeds. Increase the speed of the drill and the pressure very slowly so that the internal drill doesn't push the Vix Bit away from the car. Once the mushroom heads are gone, I can pull the car apart. Sometimes this requires a small bit of help from a tool, in this case, a small screwdriver. There's nothing better than that satisfying clicking sound as the car finally comes apart. All of the pieces of the car are here and in fairly good shape, with the exception of the motor. It had a side pipe fall off. Even though the glass is solid, since I have to order a reproduction motor, I might as well order new glass and replace the old part. I'll save that glass for a different project. Now it's time for the body to run through the warm liquid goo phase. I'll just drop it into the goo and with great satisfaction watch as it sinks into the murky depths. The base of this car is a bit of a different proposition from the body. This car does have a painted base, and painted base cars are always more challenging as you need to strip the paint off of them and you need to work around the wheels and the hubs and the axles. One day I'll test the Delrin in Citrus Strip to see how it reacts, but for now I don't want to take a risk and will apply the stripper with a brush instead of dropping the base into the warm liquid goo. You'll notice I am for now leaving the old wheels on the base to help protect the hubs. Wheels are replaceable. Hubs, well, not so much. After letting the body and base soak in the stripper for a bit, I can go ahead and fish the body out of the goo. If it looks good, I'll wash the residual paint and goo off so that I can get a good first look at what the body really looks like. Again, the citrus strip did a great job. There's virtually no paint left clinging to the body, so off to the sink it is. Back from the sink, I can see clearly just how bad the corrosion is on this car. The only real choice is to run this little guy through the electropolisher and some zinc plating, especially if I want to stick with Spectra Flame paint on it. Before heading to electropolishing, I will, as always, run my brass bristle brush over the body, kind of to unify it. As I'm going to zinc plate it, this probably really isn't necessary, but it's a good habit, so I'll just keep on doing it. And just like that, my good habit pays off. As I'm brushing, I spotted some residual paint still hanging onto the base behind the wheels. This just goes to show how painted bases can really fight you. Although I keep the old wheels on as long as possible, I'm going to have to cut them off now to help me get back there and pick off those pesky bits of paint. With the old wheels gone, I can now go ahead and get in there with a tool and do some final cleanup before heading to the electropolisher. With the base and body finally free of the last remaining paint flecks, I can now go ahead and run both through the electropolisher, and then I'll put them in the zinc plating for about 30 minutes. Now that I'm done with the plating process, I can brush and polish the base and body. It's here that I'm going to make a painful boo-boo. It's going to make me paint this car twice. After polishing, I noticed some residual toning on the base, and I really thought it would be imperceptible under the paint. I also should have done some fairly serious sanding on the bar that goes over the glass bubble, as it was pretty damaged by the corrosion, but for some reason I just didn't do it, and now I'm going to have to pay for these failures. Blissfully unaware of my stupid failures, I went ahead and took the car to the paint booth. I didn't have the wheels on anymore, so I had to mask off the hubs before I proceeded to lay down the apple green Spectra Flame paint, which I got at the Redline Shop. As always, I laid it down with a tack coat first, then I applied medium coats, and I wrapped it all up with a couple of wet coats and set it aside to dry. I hated it. It just didn't have the sparkle that it should have had. I knew I couldn't live with it, so I went all the way back to the stripping step and repeated everything up to this point. But I did add in a bunch of sanding and a lot more polishing. After the second paint job, I was finally happy with the finish, so I set it aside to dry, and then I wrapped it all up with clear coat I got from the Redline Shop. At this point, you might notice that the wheels are back on the base. That's because I didn't like dealing with taping off the hubs. So I dug through my stash and pulled out some old wheels and stuck them on the car just to protect the hubs for this second pass through the paint booth. Later, I'll cut them off as if they were the original wheels. The old windshield could have been saved, but I decided to save it for later, a different project. Today I'm going to be using the reproduction windshield, but I'm still going to run it through the gauzy. As always, I dip the glass into the gauzy, wick off the extra, and then I let it dry in a lint-free environment, a la my beloved onion saver. So now I can focus on the wheels. The Silhouette takes 2 small and 2 medium wheels, and as I always do, I'll be using chrome deep dish wheels for this restoration. I don't really care if they're correct or not. I love the look of the chrome deep dish wheels. Mm-hmm.
There's two of these.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut away these old wheels that I added to protect the hubs. This is also something you won't see very often, cutting wheels away from the base twice in one build. To put the new wheels on, I'll gently push them partially on, then I'll back them with my alignment tool and push them the rest of the way. Not only does this protect the axles and the hubs a bit, it also ensures that the wheels are equally set. Now that the wheels are on and I have the alignment tool in my hand, it's as good a time as any to go ahead and straighten out the wheels. The interior is boring. It's just a simple white color. With the giant canopy covering it, I feel like I need to give the interior at least a little bit of love. I'm going to use some Vallejo paint, and I'll first begin by painting the interior olive green. After that dries, I'll come back and paint the seats and steering column with some black. By now, you should be sick of hearing this, and you'd think I would have learned by now, but you'd be wrong. I didn't drill this car's posts out before painting. Again. This car is really going to be bad to do after the paint job, since the posts are super thin and short. But I don't really have an option here, so I'm just going to have to be extra careful. After drilling, I'll go ahead and tap the posts using my cool little handle I got from Brightvision, and then I'll go ahead and run screws into the tapped out posts and make sure that everything is fitting right. The body only needs a small painted detail: taillights. To make the lights pop, I'll first brush paint some Tamiya chrome silver on, and then after that dries, I'll follow it up with Tamiya clear red. Well, we're pretty much down to the very best part of any build: final assembly. I have all my parts and pieces gathered, everything is dry and ready to go. So I'll carefully put the glass over the interior and then drop it into the body. Seriously, this big prominent piece of glass should show you exactly why I'm so hooked on gauzy. This glass is going to shine like nobody's business. Now I can drop in the reproduction engine, and then I can lay the base on and lock it all down with some 172 button head screws. And just like that, this silhouette is done and done. I hope you enjoyed watching this restoration as much as I enjoyed doing it for you. I think the car came out great, and I hope you think so too. All right, folks, there you have it. My Silhouette in apple green. I think it came out amazing, and this car is the poster child for why Gauzy is so amazing. Because if you could see this canopy on this thing, you just would not believe it. The car looks amazing, and I'm super glad I tackled this car. And look, hey, don't shy away from these poor little undervalued Sweet 16s. They deserve love too, okay? So just take one out, play with it, restore it, do what you want with it, but give it a little love. It's deserving. All right, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and click subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Make sure you click the little bell and you'll be notified anytime I release a new video. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I hope today you have an amazing, it ain't easy being green kind of day. And until next time, this is Paul saying, be good.